Welcome to the Viking Age Podcast. It's the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. My name is Chris Schad. I am a writer for the Viking Age as well as ZoneCoverage.com. My co-host is Adam Patrick, managing editor of the Viking Age and a lead editor as part of the NFL division at Fansided. We do this right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel, and we're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. On today's show, there's been a lot of things coming from mandatory minicamp because 7-on-7s matter, damn it. That seems to be the new movement among a lot of people right now. As we've talked about, not everything you hear out of minicamp comes to fruition. Jordan Taylor has been mentioned on this show a few times. We've also had some other minicamp standouts who haven't held on to their jobs. So we have decided to pull a page out of another podcast playbook because it is a copycat league. And we are going to decide whether we will buy or sell some of the things coming out of minicamp. So how are you feeling about this, Adam? And are you ready to go?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I don't even know if it's, I think the podcast we might be taking it from, took it from, I gotta say PTI, right? That was like the podcast before the podcast.
I think every podcast has a buy or sell segment.
Yes.
I did think of, the old Bar Down Beauties podcast with Jesse Pierce and Kristen Kroll. They would do that all the time. But
I remember PTI having like at least one day a week having a buy or sell on certain things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very standard. So we are not, are we copying somebody? Yes, we are. Absolutely. It's a copycat league, like I said, just like the NFL. So that is true. Let's dive into it then. Let's start with number one, because the Vikings say they have a quarterback competition. We've heard of this before. Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy evenly split reps throughout minicamp. Murray has the edge for now, but he's also limited in reps because they're doing 50-50. McCarthy has apparently reportedly has made improvements to make this a competition. Kevin O'Connell noted McCarthy's grasp of the offense, ball placement, and enhanced touch on his throws as reasons why McCarthy has improved. He also mentioned there is not an artificial deadline to name a starter. So my initial question was, do the Vikings have a legitimate competition entering training camp? But I'm going to pull Roddy Piper, and I'm going to change the questions here. Do you believe there is not a timeline for the Vikings to determine their week one start? Buy or sell? That's a horrible lead-in, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm going to sell on that. I think the Vikings already know who's going to be their quarterback going into the season. They knew in March when they signed Kyler Murray, or else they wouldn't have signed him. And this quarterback competition, I feel like, is just, I don't know, Kevin O'Connell's way to not show his hand to the public. It seems like sometimes he plays like these weird games through the media that he thinks is going to give his team some sort of advantage in the season, and then it ends up kind of backfiring on him in typical Viking fashion. So I'm glad he's able to further along that tradition. But I think I don't buy that this is a legit competition. I never have. I know other people are like, oh, well JJ's made strides in minicamp. Oh, you mean minicamp that, Dan Campbell also called, the Pajama Olympics or whatever, also minicamp, where Kevin O'Connell literally said in his press conference, it's hard to evaluate people when you're not running things at full speed, which means they're not going at full speed. So, and all this stuff about like Kyler Murray throwing interceptions and stuff in minicamp, and just like, and then we hear about I think there's been instances of McCarthy could have thrown interceptions in minicamp as well, but the players or whatever, just like the defensive players, just let the ball go by. Otherwise, if it was a real practice, like a training camp practice, he probably would have been picked off as well. But all this to say, I think this final week that happened within the last week of minicamp, where all of a sudden everything is very positive in the direction of J.J. McCarthy after an entire offseason of like I said in the last episode, throwing him under the bus and backing up and pulling forward and rolling over him over and over and over again. Them signing Kyler Murray, them signing Carson Wentz. Like what those moves are not very pro, let's start JJ McCarthy. So I think this last week wasn't a coincidence that Tom Pelissero, what is it now? A little bit over a week now, said that throughout the question, what are the Vikings going to do if McCarthy doesn't win the competition? They're gonna trade him? He also said in that same conversation he thinks the competition is gonna probably be over by the end of minicamp. Um, so if that competition is over and training camp starts and we now know the beginning of August, that's going to be a good amount of time for the Vikings to try and see if they can maybe move on from McCarthy and see what they can get. Let's build him up. Let's pump up his tires the week before everyone goes in and goes away, and give him, leave everyone with a positive impression of him. The week after, everyone was ragging on him for his high school classroom answer. Let's build him up again and see if we can get all we can get out of him. Because there's no way, unless Kyler Murray gets injured, that J.J. McCarthy is going to open up the season as a starter. I know people would love for that scenario to happen, and a lot of people say it's ideal because you have so much team control or whatever with J.J. McCarthy's contract. He has 2 or 3 years left of that, but that doesn't matter if he's not good enough for the offense that Kevin O'Connell is trying to run. Kyler Murray can run Kevin O'Connell's offense. If he runs it not as great as Sam Darnold, that's okay. But there's a very good chance he's going to run it better than J.J. McCarthy, because McCarthy put up some of the worst numbers in NFL history last year running Kevin O'Connell's offense. So it's not, the bar's pretty low for Murray to clear. But yes, all of that to say, I am selling that there is a legit timeline to decide this quarterback battle that's going on.
I'm selling as well because, first of all, I've kind of learned not to trust anything that comes out of KOC's mouth right now. I mean, there's just been too much over the last calendar year where he says one thing and another thing happens. So when you go up to the podium every time and you give 15-minute answers with nothing out of them, I don't trust you anymore. And you have to win back that trust in my mind. So, I mean, who gives a shit what this podcast host thinks about Kevin O'Connell's answers here? But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with Kevin O'Connell right now. And the other thing is, this is a very complex offense. Kirk Cousins, who I know is the most high maintenance franchise quarterback ever, had to make flashcards. Adam Dillon said his brain was swimming in Kevin O'Connell's offense. And judging by last year, he was still swimming like he was, kind of like a toddler thrown into the deep end. If Kyler Murray's only getting half the reps, it's kind of hard to get it down and make all the throws that are asked. And ask J.J. McCarthy, who had all of the reps last year and still looked like he did. So Kevin O'Connell's not watering down his offense unless it means saving his job to get to 500 after a 4-8 start. And there's no way that they're going to have both quarterbacks out there in the second preseason game throwing the ball around, trying to decide who their starter is. They will make a decision. It might be the first week of training camp. It might be after the first handful of practices. Somebody's going to take this, and I think it's going to be Kyler Murray, because for everybody freaking out over the interceptions, Dane Mizutani, the Pioneer Press, brought this up on a Purple Insider podcast, where he said Kevin O'Connell in the past has referred to this as the teaching and learning phase of the offseason, which means the competitive phase isn't until training camp. So if Kyler Murray goes out, gets 75, 25 or whatever, don't be alarmed, because like you said, it's very convenient how Tom Pelissero a week ago goes, man, this could be decided during minicamp. They could go ahead and trade him. You trade McCarthy. It's kind of trending that way. And then next day, Jeremy Fowler's on ESPN going, whoa, hey, they really like what they see out of J.J. McCarthy here. And the funniest thing was a Wes Phillips press conference where he mentioned, yep, JJ looks great. He's improving. He's doing all this stuff. And there was a follow-up question that said, well, where has he improved? You media people, you guys are just going to turn a side eye into anything. And, we got a really good culture here. You know what it reminds me of? I went to Royal Rumble in 2019 a few years ago, and there was a gentleman in front of us who I would say he looked like a mix between Kid Rock and a Duck Dynasty character on meth.
Oh,
and he was like he was talking. Tessa Blanchard was in the ring, and he's like, "Oh yeah, look at," or no, Ricochet was in the ring, and Tessa Blanchard came up. Yeah, she was not in WWE, so Ricochet was in the ring. And if you don't know who Ricochet is, if you don't watch wrestling, this is like a dude who can like flip out of the gym, 10 RAS score or whatever. He's got like 8-pack abs, maybe 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's trying to tell us that he hooked up with his former girlfriend, Tessa Blanchard. And we just looked at him like, so do you have a picture or anything? And he said, oh man, look at this match. This is so great, man. Like, look, it totally like just completely changed the subject. We're like, yeah, no, you didn't. So when Wes Phillips pulls that, I say no. And here's the other thing too. Alec Lewis noted in his little notebook, the Vikings are still high on Max Brosner. Now, that could be just clinging on to a little ray of hope after, glazing him for an entire season. But I do think they like Max Brosner, and I think they want to keep developing him. And are you going to carry 4 quarterbacks? Are you going to have one on the practice squad? Are you going to have, Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, J.J. McCarthy, and Max Brosner? Like, somebody's got to go. So when it comes to a competition, I'm not buying it. And maybe we get to training camp and we're seeing the two slinging around. It's like, oh, maybe this is. I think they have a certain date in mind. And I think they have, like you said, I think they've already made their mind up that it's going to be Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think the Vikings would have had seen a massive amount of change in order for them to not go with Kyler Murray over McCarthy as their starter this year. And there's only so much he can do, on his own, off the field. I think a lot of the stuff that the Vikings want to see from McCarthy is also off the field, like his behavior and his maturity off the field, which I think has been, from what we've seen, he's a good leader. His teammates, love hanging out with him, I guess, and going to wild games and cheering him on at the Thielen softball charity event. Like, people like him. He's a likable guy, but being likable doesn't mean make you better at football. And the Vikings need someone who's better at football, whether he's a nice guy or not. Because if Kevin O'Connell fails to win a playoff game again next season, Nolan Teasley is going to be like, hey, I didn't hire you. I don't got to keep you around.
What are you talking about? Nolan Teasley loves Kevin O'Connell. They're best friends already.
But I think Nolan Teasley is also very smart. He already said he wasn't really gonna fire anybody or bring anybody new in, and then all of a sudden, fired a bunch of people, brought in 2 of his own guys, demoted Ryan Grigson. He's like, oh yeah, I was just kidding. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how this plays out, because I think Kevin O'Connell has a lot riding on this upcoming season, and he knows it. And he knows if he goes with J.J. McCarthy, there's a good chance, a better chance, that he's going to be fired after the upcoming season. I know he's in good standing with the Wilfs and stuff, but if he, attaches himself to McCarthy for this upcoming season and goes to bat for him, and McCarthy has another season like he did last year, they're both going to be out the door. And then the Vikings are going to be, I don't know, trading for Geno Smith again. I don't know. So
I'm selling the idea that Kevin O'Connell would get fired if he lost a playoff game. I think he's got the Wilfs wrapped around his finger.
I know, yeah. I agree, but a lot can change in the span of, what would it be, 8 months?
It's all about what happens too. Like, is there, and I mean, the Wolves have come out and they've been like, injuries aren't an excuse.
Right.
Well, I mean, there seemed to be a hell of a lot of excuses last year, and Kevin O'Connell's still here with no sign that he's.
And if injuries weren't an excuse, then, he probably would have kept the offensive line coach too. So.
Yeah, exactly. Which is funny you mentioned that, because that's the next one. I was going to say Kevin O'Connell, 1,000 million billion % will be the head coach of the Vikings next year, but That is very interesting you bring that up, because the Vikings offensive line reportedly feels different going into training camp. The Vikings changed offensive line coaches. They fired Chris Cooper. They hired Keith Carter over the offseason. Frank Smith, who was formerly the offensive coordinator with the Miami Dolphins, he is the new assistant head coach and a run game guru. Per Alec Lewis, he said the intensity increased. They used vertical double teams and attacking off the line of scrimmage. They also replicated stunts that defensive lines would use in pass protection. Brian O'Neill also noted that the expectations are laid out in front of them. So, Adam, are you buying or selling a rebound for the offensive line following minicamp?
I'm going to buy, but it has nothing to do with what happened in minicamp when they're not wearing pads and not barely even touching each other. It has more to do with people being healthier and a more consistency along the offensive line. So Darisaw, he says he's on track. Sounds like he should be much better than last year, at least health-wise. So that should be pretty good for the year. Donovan Jackson's heading into his second season with the Vikings. We know that, the rookie to the following year is always people tend to perform better, so I would expect him to perform better next year. Blake Brandel at center. If anything, I would just be happy with the consistency of having him in there after he was in there. Juergens was in there. Ryan Kelly was in there last year. Like, having three different centers probably didn't help J.J. McCarthy. Probably wouldn't have helped anybody last year. So that's something, and having that consistency will probably help Will Fries play a little better by knowing that he has someone next to him that knows what they're doing and knows what he's doing. And then Brian O'Neill, he's probably about to get a new contract extension, and he should play better as well. So I think they're going to improve from that aspect. I don't think it's because of the new coaching or anything like that, because they're still running the same offense. I until proven otherwise, I don't think they're gonna vastly change the way they, run the ball or block, because Kevin O'Connell's still the one calling the plays. So we will see on that. But I think just because of overall the likelihood of the line being healthier and able to stay as a cohesive unit longer is why I would think they would improve next year.
This is where I'm having my difficulties with minicamp, because we have people out here going 7-on-7s matter. You guys don't understand. We actually put more emphasis on 7-on-7 drills than an actual.
Did you see what Pete Burson says?
Yeah. What did he say? Actually,
it's good. He said, yes, 7-on-7 do matter. They do matter a whole lot, but they are a whole lot different in minicamp than they are in training camp and the regular season.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we do this. We're like, oh yeah, a teaching and learning phase. And then we come out of it and go like, God, look at this offensive line, man. Oh man, I got sleepers everywhere. I got people popping out. I mean, training
doing different drills.
Crazy. Everybody is in the best shape of their life. Everybody is just bursting onto the scene. Like there's like 300 steals of the draft. I know there's only 250 picks in the NFL draft, but I mean, there are 300 steals of the draft just waiting to reveal themselves when we get to training camp. As far as the offensive line goes, get back on task. I'm buying a rebound, but like you, it has nothing to do with what happened in minicamp. It's health. Christian Darisaw looks healthy. Brian O'Neill was hurt last year too. People don't remember that because he played just about every game because they kind of had to have it because their backup plan was just in school.
Yeah.
I also like the coaching arraignment because I know too, a lot of people like Chris Cooper. I think Christian Darisaw had some kind of cryptic post when they fired him, and Keith Carter too. That whole came out where, you look back, the Jets players are laughing at him. Taylor Lewan is clowning him for his, practice techniques. Thing about Keith Carter is he's pretty good at his job. Derrick Henry ran wild when he was with the Titans. Breece Hall was pretty good with him as well. They developed Olo Fashanu, who is one of the good players on the Jets. They don't have a lot, but that's one of them.
They just re-signed or extended a guard too, I think, right?
Yes,
today.
I believe I don't.
Don't
Yeah,
ask me his name.
me. They're the Jets. They don't matter.
They don't have real players.
Um, you know, I think this offensive line could use a little piss and vinegar to it
Yeah.
because I think too often, the whole Garrett Bradbury joke where I know he hasn't been on the team in a couple of years, but I mean, getting thrown around like a cruiserweight against Brock Lesnar or whatever every time Kenny Clark comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see this line attack and be aggressive and maul holes in the running game and the few opportunities that Kevin O'Connell does call a running play. I think that getting Frank Smith in here is very good because not only was he good as a schemer with the Dolphins, he is also very much a player's coach. So if Keith Carter is being a dick, which there's
Good cop,
nothing
bad
wrong.
cop.
Right. Exactly. It's a good cop, bad cop element. And, if Keith Carter's being too hard, they can go to Frank Smith and be like, hey, he made us. Oh, no. Probably shouldn't say that too loud with 300-pound men, but I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I like what they're doing here. Will it work? I don't know. We're not going to know until the regular season, but I like what they're doing here. I like the fact that they're doing a little bit more aggressive things, and it's noticeable even in a 7-on-7 practice. So I'm kind of interested to see how it works out during training camp.
Yeah, I think one thing we didn't mention is I also like the depth. They improved their depth this offseason by adding Ryan Vandermark and Tiernan in the draft. So I would like to think that they upgraded over Justin School last year. The interior depth is probably something that has a few more question marks. But they've got some people there that they can try out as well. So yeah, I feel better about the possibility of this offensive line than I did at the end of last season. Um, but I would say overall in Kevin O'Connell's tenure, I feel like the offensive line has been better than what it was during the previous regime when during Spielman's entire tenure, it was like just terrible every year. And it's like, we need to fix this. And he's like, yeah, look at a 7th round pick. Well, we'll throw him in there and see how it goes. We'll draft a center in the 1st round. Oh, okay. That'll work. So yeah, I think overall, just with Kevin O'Connell, his offense, I feel better about it overall, especially with Garrett Bradbury no longer being the center. I just always feel better about it if he's not in the middle. So good luck, Bears, if he even makes the team.
If he's not traded by week 1 because they took Logan Jones. Let's keep moving along here. Offense has got a lot of talkers. Let's talk about the defense a second because Harrison Smith still somewhere in the wilderness right now, trying to contemplate if he wants to come back in 2026. Alex Lewis's notebook said the beginning of training camp doesn't necessarily have to be a deadline. Neither does the end of camp. So, two-pronged question. Are you buying or selling Harrison Smith's return in 2026? And if so, when does he come back?
It's a tough one because I think it was 2 years ago after the Rams playoff game. It might have been Mark Rosen who asked him or somebody else, like, how do you feel? Like, are we going to know when you retire and stuff? And he's basically like, I'm not going to make like some big announcement and hold a press conference or anything, but you'll know that I'm retired. And I don't know if we know that yet, because there's rumblings that he wants to come back. There's rumblings that he's been around certain players with the team, and team people have hung out with him. Brian Flores talked glowingly about him. Like Kevin O'Connell's joking whenever he is asked about him, not being allowed to play golf with him or whatever. But then I did just come across something that Ben Lieber said, former Vikings linebacker, current Minnesota sports everything contributor, Vikings sideline reporter. I'm sorry, Vikings radio sideline reporter. But he said, I think he said in a recent interaction with Harrison Smith, he mentioned about how Eric Kendricks last year was kind of just hanging out around his house, and then the 49ers gave him a call, and he helped them at the end of the season. He talked about, like, is that something like a scenario you could see? And apparently Harrison Smith was like, yeah, I would like to do that. So maybe it's a scenario where, after the trade deadline or after their bye or whatever, Harrison Smith comes back. Now, if the Vikings secondary, the back half of the secondary is playing well, I don't think you should do that. So I think that's where the dilemma comes in of like, is Harrison Smith like a backup plan to come and help the secondary in the second half of the season, or do you bring him in to play the entire season? So that being said, I'm gonna buy him coming back. I just think he likes playing for Brian Flores too much, and I think the Vikings can surprise a lot of people next year. And if they get off to a hot start and he's not there, I think he's gonna be blowing up their phone anyways to be like, hey, I want to come back. So he'll be back.
I will buy it, but I think it won't happen until week 8.
Oh, okay.
At the earliest. I think last year kind of showed him, hey, like we kind of did too much. Like he was on board. I think he was on board like in March. He said he was coming back.
Yeah.
So, he went through training camp. He had the illness, whatever it was. They said it affected his training. They said it affected training. Yes. It could very well just be he's a 38-year-old. And also, too, I do question, Harrison Smith being 38 are you that dependent on a 38-year-old safety? Because if you are, I'm not. And I know he's smart. He knows Brian Flores' defense. We all love him. I mean, he's going to be a Ring of Honor guy. He says, oh, I'm not going to do it. That they will literally come to Harrison Smith's house in the wilderness and be like, hey, come do this for the reporters. Like all of that stuff will happen. But also, too, he was not himself until the final 5 games when they were playing the, ready for Cancun tour, or in the Packers case, the playoffs, because they made the playoffs last year. Like, I think he is being very deliberate, and I think he knows, hey, let's see how this works out, because he probably doesn't want to go through another year like he had last year where they're 4-8, you're playing out the string. Like if you go halfway, you wait and see if the phone rings from the Vikings, or I don't think he'd sign with I mean, it's pretty much implied that it's Vikings or bust, but
yeah, who else would he play for?
I just don't know.
Mike Zimmer's not
but you never
anywhere.
could see Eric Kendricks playing for the Niners. So I mean,
he's from that area, so
that is true. That's a good point. So I don't know.
Robert Saleh, like I guess people want to play for him. So yeah, I guess maybe the Titans because Harrison Smith's from Tennessee.
From Tennessee.
So
yeah,
I don't think he'd be like playing for. I don't think he'd like play for the Bears or the Lions or anything.
No, that would probably. I mean, it's very like Taylor Decker said that where he got released by the Lions. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't see myself signing with another NFC North team. That would just be a little weird. So I don't know. We'll see if Harry emerges from the Smoky Mountains and decides to play, but we'll probably have more cryptic updates coming in the coming weeks. One more from the Veterans Department. Jahmyr Jennings is a member of the Minnesota Vikings. He was in the flesh talking to reporters, and he compared the Vikings wide receiver core to the Golden State Warriors. He was asked by Darren Wolfson. He goes, it's awesome. I feel like Kevin Durant with the Warriors. Big 3, man. You know what I'm saying? Just a lot of talent here. Are you buying or selling the Vikings as loaded as the Golden State Warriors in the receiver room?
Pains me to say this, but I'm going to sell. If Kyler is the QB1, they're going to have similar size point guards going into next season. But yeah, it's a fun thing to say and compare and write about in the spring, but Jordan Addison's never gotten over 1,000 yards. Pretty sure Jahmyr Jennings never gotten over 1,000 yards.
Correct.
So Justin Jefferson's the only one. That would imply that there's like a big 3. There's not a big 3. It's a big 1 and 2 guys that are above average receivers. Like I'm not speaking out of turn here. I think I like Jordan Addison. I think he's a good player. And I think Jahmyr Jennings is a very good number 3 receiver, probably arguably one of the best in the league. but that doesn't mean you have like 3 All-Pros in your receiver room. Justin Jefferson's there, and Addison and Juwan Jennings are probably going to look really good next year because all the attention is going to be on Justin Jefferson. So I'm trying to figure out who is who in this scenario. Is Justin Jefferson? Is he Kevin Durant? Is he Steph Curry? Is Jordan Addison? Klay Thompson? Who's Draymond Green? Is that yeah, Chris Boyd's gone, so we can't really pick him.
That might just be Jennings. Jennings has gotten some
Yeah.
fights.
Oh yeah. That's true. But I'm unfortunately going to sell. I'm trying to think of a different NBA comparison. Maybe I'll think of one during your answer. But yeah, it's a fun comparison. But sorry, I'm gonna have to sell.
I think I'm selling too because the back end, I mean, top heavy, sure. I mean, Justin Jefferson's one of the best receivers in the world, if not the best receiver. Jordan Addison is very good. Schad Jennings, I mean, Juwan Jennings. I went in the Wayback Machine with the whole fantasy football PTSD. I just think Juwan Jennings is just a guy. Like that is my opinion on Joe. I know a lot of football-y people are like, well, he blocks and he does all the little underneath. And maybe like seeing him first person, I'll be like, okay, I see this. But the rest of the league spoke volumes, in my opinion, when they didn't give him a long-term contract and he wound up signing a 1-year prove-it deal with the Vikings. So I am not buying the Juwan Jennings hype. I think it's laughable that he's like, I'm Kevin Durant. Yeah, sure. I'm the Rock, dude. Like I love minicamp because it's just like people will say shit like this and then we'll blow it up. And like, it's like the classroom thing that J. McCarthy said. Also, too, I forgot to mention too, with the wide receivers, an important note in that quarterback competition. And Matthew Collar mentioned this on Purple Insider as well. Nobody has thrown a pass to Justin Jefferson yet. They didn't have him run 7-on-7 reps because why would you?
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a key data point we do not have.
And J.J. McCarthy couldn't throw to Justin Jefferson last year. Like they had
which
no
seems
chemistry.
Impossible, doesn't it?
Nick Mullins could.
Yeah. Nick Mullins could freaking do it.
I thought of a team. This might be dating me and you, but the Allen Iverson era 76ers, where he was like everything. He was the whole team, and then he just had a bunch of like guys around him, like I'm trying to think, Eric Snow, Theo Ratliff, Aaron McKee. Dikembe was good. They traded, but he was there for like half a year. I feel like that was the year they traded. He was
like a rental guy. Yeah,
they traded for him. I think that's the year they got to the finals. But they had like Larry Hughes, like just a bunch of guys around Allen Iverson, and they were never able to get over that hump. I guess you could say something similar maybe to like the Blazers before Damian Lillard left, was kind of something similar to that, where it was him and just a bunch of other people a lot of times.
Kevin Garnett, Timberwolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially
I know they had Sprewell and Cassell the one big year, but I mean, they were kind of B-list guys.
Yeah. That makes me think of something where, like, I think I saw a picture of the NBA store in the Mall of America. That's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it had like a display of like old Timberwolves stuff, and one of the jerseys was Marbury, and I'm like, wasn't he there for like 2 years? Why
Bro, we love him.
Oh, like, I know.
It's crazy. Yeah, like
I loved him too growing up. Like, yeah, that was it. The first intro of like the Trees uniforms, and Garnett and Marbury were like, Penny and Shaq, and then Marbury was like, "It is too cold. I gotta get out of here." Like, have you ever heard him be like, "Yeah, I didn't want to be there because it was way too cold"?
He was talking. I think he was on a podcast. Yeah, he was on a podcast. He was talking about how. Also too, it makes me laugh every time somebody's like, "Oh, it's too cold in Minnesota." I'm like, dude, you have like nor'easters and shit. Like,
and also, are you just hanging outside all day? I think it was he mentioned a lot of stories about like him driving and like slipping on ice and stuff.
Black ice, yep.
Yeah. So yeah. That you don't have to drive in New York. You get a taxi everywhere at that time, or you walk. So I could understand that, I guess. But yeah, I saw that picture in like the NBA store. I'm like, why is like Marbury's jersey? Like, he was there for 2 years.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I mean, Timberwolves fans are still like, I'm trying to think of like a cult hero that was like not. I mean, Naz Reid's kind of the current
Yeah.
example, but like he's actually good. So like that seems kind of demeaning. Like
I don't think Tom Gugliotta got to that level, right?
there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
we like Googs though.
Yeah.
I mean, better than Christian Leitner, but
Rasha Nesterovic.
yes. Let's go with some more comparisons. Of course, it is mini camp, so this is our first unofficial look at the rookies, even though there's no cameras or anything allowed.
Yep.
Damon Claiborne, 6th round draft pick, Wake Forest. He's a running back. Haven't heard from him, but we heard from Aaron Jones, who was talking about what kind of things he needs to do to adapt to the NFL. And he said, defensive linemen, they're pretty fast. And then he went to talk on about Claiborne, where he said, honestly, it looks a little bit like Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of that speed and burst. Also said his electricity is no joke. Dane Brugler and the ever famous anonymous executives have also thrown around the term Diet Jahmyr Gibbs and Diet Devon Achane. So are you buying or selling the Diet Gibbs, Diet Achane hype for Damon Claiborne?
First, before that, I wanted to point out something just popped in my head about minicamp and how much everything matters that happens in minicamp. How many injuries happened in Vikings minicamp this year? Oh yeah, 0. That's because they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Unlike Dan Campbell, whose players' knees are just exploding in minicamp too. But there was no injuries in Vikings minicamp. That shows you how intense things are. But in terms of Diet, Achane and Gibbs, I'm gonna have to unfortunately sell until I am able to see more of what Damon Claiborne can do, especially for Kevin O'Connell, because he's gonna want him to be able to do certain things like pass block, catch out of the backfield, um, run right up the middle and figure out how to gain more yards. So, and I think Damon Claiborne's going to get a lot of hype probably in the preseason because he's going to be going up against, third and fourth stringers. Also, ball security, that was a concern with Ty Chandler, Jordan Mason last year. Like, there's a bunch of factors that go into evaluating how much a 6th-round running back can make an impact on a Vikings team that needs, like, a burner like him. But again, with the same thing with the Golden State Warriors comparison, Jahmyr Gibbs is, like, the guy you can compare someone to if they're a fast running back. No one's comparing him. He wasn't like, oh, he reminds me a lot of Michael Bennett from like the Vikings old
He's like a
days.
young Mewelde Moore out
Yeah.
there.
So like, unfortunately, I'm going to sell, but only until we see more. I would love for him to be Diet Jahmyr Gibbs or whatever, but it's easier said than done. And of course, Aaron Jones is going to hype him up because he wants his guys to be hyped up. He sees them every day.
I mean, this is the type of stuff, like, if I were still playing fantasy football, I'd be hyped about, like, oh, yeah, drum beat, right? And I think last offseason really ruined me because, there were so many things that came out of camp and they turned out to be nothing. When I was in college doing the play-by-play thing, I had to go to Stevens Point for a game, and I didn't really like my color guy, but he was sitting next to me. And there's some Stevens Point running back just carving up your defending D3 national champions, UW River Falls Falcons, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
This is a long time ago when they were not doing that. I think they won 4 games a couple of times, and that was like a good
Where's
year
their
for
coach
them.
now?
I don't even know.
He got hired by somebody, right?
Their old coach got hired by Drake.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's in the FC, which good for him.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. But yeah, as far as going to that game, this Stevens Point running back is carving up the Falcons, and my color guy said, man, he kind of looks like Barry Sanders' kid out there. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Straight up on the broadcast.
Nope. Definitely not.
Like, here's the thing. He may be fast. Like he's got a similar 40 time to Gibbs. I believe Gibbs was 4.32. He was 4.37. You have to do more than run fast in the NFL. Ask Ty Chandler about how that works. We say this all the time as well. Is Kevin O'Connell going to run the ball enough for this to matter? Like if Claiborne gets involved in the passing game, and he did a good job of that in his final 2 years at Wake Forest, I could definitely see him, because I think out of all the positions, when it comes to late round players, a running back has a great chance of contributing. But I mean, to expect him to be one of the best running backs in the league. And of course, that's where the diet comparison comes in. Like you said, people don't throw out normal comparisons. They always somebody that everybody would know, like Christian McCaffrey when he first came out. I think they asked him, "Oh yeah, so what's your running style like? Are you like Mike Alstott or whatever?" And he's like, Deuce McAllister. Like I think I'm tough between the tackles. So
John Riggins, are you just like him?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he could also wind up returning punts next year, which is another thing that could happen too, because Miles Price fumbled 4. So maybe that's the way he makes his impact. I don't know.
There's reports that he was doing some returning in minicamp. So,
and we also know too, Aaron Jones got banged up last year.
Yep.
So if he gets it down, I mean, this is another thing you kind of got to wait and see until training camp. But right now, you're kind of skeptical because, you're comparing him to the best running back in the league, or one of the best running backs in the league, however you want to rank them. But to me,
I'm trying to think who is like the fastest, best running back. Would it be Chris Johnson?
Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
The old getting away from the cop speed. Which he meant driving. Like, come on. Like he meant Thelma and Louise. Come on. Or even like running.
Marshall Faulk was pretty fast, wasn't he?
I don't remember his 40 time, but he was good.
Like
Michael Bennett was a sprinter, but like he just.
Speaking of driving away from the cops.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
Jordan Addison is jealous.
Yeah.
You can go that fast? Oh, my.
Definitely. I'm trying. I can't even really think of anyone else.
Fast running. Jamal Charles was pretty fast.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Peterson was fast.
AP was fast. Yes.
There just aren't a lot of those running backs anymore, so it's hard.
No, like the one cut and burst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much.
Early Dalvin Cook. Yeah, like that stuff.
Yeah. Let's stick with the rookie theme. Dillon Bell is another guy that Vikings are getting to know here. Again, this is from Alec Lewis. He said, Bell caught every pass thrown to him and ran routes with smoothness. The Vikings also asked him to step in with the starters, which is a good sign. Now, our friend Matthew Culler has also been on the Bell hype train. I asked if he should get the Max Brosmer Pajama Party Award, and I was told, well, I mean, Adam Thielen, people didn't know him in that first training camp, and I was like, all right. So
and then he went on the practice squad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. He wasn't even on the actual team for a couple of years. So maybe in 2 or 3 years, we'll be hearing from Dillon Bell. Are you buying or selling Dillon Bell having a legitimate impact on the 2026 Vikings?
A legitimate impact? I'm going to sell on that. I think the Vikings receiver depth after signing Jennings is just, it's too much for Bell to make any sort of impact. Ty Felton also, I guess, looked better at minicamp.
It's amazing what you can do when there's no threat of being tackled. But
yeah, and you're running plays in slow motion. But he's a 3rd round pick, so I think he just gets that benefit of the doubt. So he's probably a lock to make the team. And then Miles Price as well. So like it's not like there's Justin Jefferson and then there's Dillon Bell. There's like 4 or 5 people in front of him on the depth chart, and he could play well. And he would not be the first receiver, like undrafted, obviously, or late round receiver that has played well in the summer or the preseason. I've mentioned to you guys before, like Chad Beebe, Alexander Hollins, Like there's just a long list of guys receivers who have Brandon Zylstra, who have played well in the summer, and then they get to the regular season, and it's like, oh yeah, they're scratch because they don't need them. So unless Dillon Bell can do something, special teams wise, or he gets in the punt return or kick return, contest, maybe. But this isn't like poo pooing on the guy either. He's an undrafted receiver who's in a receiver room that's pretty deep right now. But I don't think he's going to have any impact on the Vikings next year. But he could in 2027 if Jennings doesn't come back and they trade Addison. So, like, him performing well does not mean he doesn't have a future with the Vikings. It just, or him not having an impact next year doesn't mean he doesn't have a future with the Vikings. Like, this is a good year for him to get in, learn the offense, get a groove of whatever quarterback's going to be there, and then be ready to come back next year. He could make a good impact. So, sorry this year, maybe next year.
Yeah, I just have a hard. I think he could make the team because, like you said, behind the big three, there's not really. There we go. I call them the big three. Behind those top three receivers, there's not a lot of appealing depth there. I also, I was listening to Locked On Vikings today to give our friends a shout out there, Tyler Forness and Luke Braun. And Tyler was talking about how the Georgia offense throws a lot to the running backs and tight ends, which is why Dillon Bell's numbers weren't as great. At the same time, they threw a lot to Zachariah Branch, who was also on the Bulldogs. So that might have had something to do with it. And not slam Tyler's take. I'm just saying, like, there are some reasons there.
Ladd McConkey, he played Georgia. So they do start receivers.
They do have guys produced from time to time.
Yeah.
More than Dillon Bell has. And also, too, I worry, some people kind of list him as a gadget guy because he can kind of do a lot of things. Well, I also wonder if that's overused because people just don't know what to do with him. Like, oh, he's a gadget guy. We can do whatever we want. Okay, what can you ask for? Well, there are things. There are situations and scenarios and outcomes. Yeah, he makes plays out there. You'll definitely see
in the
him.
Open field.
Like, this could definitely change if the Vikings make an addition. Like, and I think they might. I mean, we might get to the end of camp. Dillon Bell might have a good camp, and the Vikings might say, hey, there's another receiver out there that we like a lot. Like, again, this is just very hard for me to tell because, okay, he got in with the starters. That's great. Justin Jefferson wasn't out there at all.
Yeah.
So, like, if we're going to sit there and say teaching and learning phase, okay, then, I mean, Dillon Bell, show me in training camp. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Show me during camp and show me, like, you're a player because you've won the PJ party. So,
and Justin Jefferson's probably not going to play a lot. I'm going to assume he will practice, but I'm assuming he's not going to practice every time in training camp because he got hurt last year. And the Vikings don't want to have that again where they got a new quarterback in and he misses like all of training camp. So I would expect them to be cautious with him as well. So Dillon Bell's going to get even more opportunities, but it's not going to be like he's the number 3 now. Juwan Jennings is number 4. But this isn't to like poo-poo on Dillon Bell. It's just like there's too many people I feel like to overcome in that receiver room for him to make any sort of impact next year. And how often do the Vikings run 4 receivers? Like they run 3
not
a lot.
Often. Yeah.
Which is weird. They run 3 a lot, but they don't run 4 or 5 like a ton. I don't know. They just need TJ Hawkinson on the field to not do anything, I guess.
TJ Hawkinson and a running back they won't use. So, yeah, exactly. It's 3rd and 1. Let's 5 wide. Let's dust her off.
No, shotgun. That's when you run shotgun draw. It's 3rd and 1. You want to back up 5 yards and then run more.
Try and pick up 6 yards on a 3rd and 1 to get the first down. That makes a ton of sense. The last one I have on my list is Jake Golday. Sounds like he played some off-ball linebacker, picked Andrew Van Ginkel's brain a little bit because that's kind of it. Are you buying or selling a first-year impact from Jake Golday?
I'm buying. I am buying Jake Golday making an impact. And it could even be just like on special teams. He could be like
Yeah.
an elite special teams guy. I could see him blocking some punts or something some point in the season. But I'm buying because pretty sure Blake Cashman's already, I don't know if he's like legit hurt or he's just working off to the side to try and get a new deal or something. But the reports coming out of minicamp were that he was working on the side. And Blake Cashman, not known to be the healthiest player in his entire career. He played a lot his first year with the Vikings. He did not play a lot last year. He played a good amount, but not. He missed a bunch of games. But the point is, and Ivan Pace, I feel like Golday is gonna surpass Ivan Pace on that depth chart. At least he has the talent to do that. Because I think Ivan Pace is, the hype has died down quite a bit with Ivan Pace after that first year when everyone was getting excited because he painted his face with what is that, what is that even called? Tar? Like
Eye black?
eye black. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, and even that, I think he has the versatility to also fill in for a Dallas Turner or a Van Ginkel if those guys were to get hurt. Like if they needed to put out a starting lineup of Dallas Turner, Blake Cashman, Eric Wilson, and Jake Golday, I think people would be okay with that. So I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunities because of Golday's versatility for him to get on the field next year. So I'm gonna to buy him making an impact.
Well, I will buy too because I don't think Ivan Pace is going to make the team this year.
Ooh.
Like I just think he's. I don't want to say overrated because I think Vikings fans know what he is, but I mean everybody kind of bought into that rookie hype and rightfully so. He had a really good rookie year. He has fallen off a cliff since, and I mean, like you said, even if it's special teams and Jake Golday is out there, maybe he stays in his kickoff lane and they beat the Bears. Like it's just small mistakes like that. And if you ask Ivan Pace to cover at all, he's completely helpless. So when you're undersized as is and your calling card is as a thumper, you're going to have some problems. With Golday, I think his versatility could make him like the Josh Metellus of the front seven, where you could use him off ball. You can use him as an edge. They may even have him rush the passer as, there
Brian
are a
Flores?
lot of things you can do. Yeah. And Brian Flores is going to know how to do that. I mean, I've been kind of critical of Brian Flores a little bit this offseason, but I mean, at the same time, I do trust him to look at a player like Jake Golday and have a vision for him. So, I'm excited about him. Like, I don't know if that means defensive rookie of the year or whatever, but I mean, if he is,
I don't know about that.
If he is a, what Carson Swessinger, is that his name for Cleveland? He winds up being that type of player. I think that's huge for the defense because they were getting a little old at linebacker. They were kind of running out of guys. I don't know what they do with Andrew Van Ginkel after this year. Maybe that's Golday's long-term role, but you should be able to find a way to get him on the field if he deserves. I mean, if he's like behind or whatever, but it does not sound like that's the case.
No.
So I'm excited for Jake Golday. And I mean, maybe we would have heard something about Caleb Banks in this draft or this mini camp thing if he were participating. It sounds like he's going to be good to go for training camp, but I would like to see some of the rookies contribute. Like if Aaron Jones's thing with the Diet Jahmyr Gibbs thing is real, that would be awesome. Or even just, Dominique Orange getting out there, Caleb Banks getting out there. We didn't even mention Chuck Demings, the cornerback out of Stephen F. Austin.
Right.
There are a lot of players who have a clear path to contributing. Now they just have to make it happen. And that starts in training camp.
I would also say as a PSA to Vikings fans to not get expectations too high for this draft class because it is also the draft class that was drafted by people who just got fired.
Yeah.
So, and the draft was led by Rob Brzezinski and Kevin O'Connell and Ryan Grigson. So, yes, it would be nice for these players to make an impact, but I just wanted to want everyone to know, like, let's not get super pumped about, everyone and then be like, oh, these guys suck because they're not making any impact. It's like, well, the guys who added them weren't that great, and that's why they're not here anymore. But no, I think it'll be interesting to see now that also Nolan Teasley has like a couple of his own guys in the building, and I'm sure he'll add more too. They're coming to get me because I'm talking bad about the rookies.
Yeah.
But I
We'll
think now that
put
he
in
has
the
some of
call.
his now that he has some of his own guys in the building and Gregson's impact is probably not as high. It'll be interesting to see like who they pick for their final roster and who they go in the season. Like, are they gonna is is Claiborne gonna make the team? Like, he's a 6th-round pick. Like,
Yeah.
what if they don't like him? Like, what if they just hired someone who has a PhD from MIT and went to Yale and stuff? Like, what if he looks into his numbers and is like, yeah, he's fast. He doesn't do anything else. So like,
Remember Dwayne McBride, the
yes,
starters
of course I
grade?
do.
Yeah. 7th round pick, and next thing you know,
He
he's
also
on
went to what, UAB,
UAB.
powerhouse UAB. At least Claiborne went to an ACC school, so he played
Mm-hmm.
against like some good defenses. But still, like, there's no attachment from this new regime to the players they just drafted. Like, and that might cause some friction with Kevin O'Connell or something. But like, they could cut whoever they want. Like, they didn't draft these guys, so like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a shock. They're not gonna cut Caleb Banks or anything like that, but don't be surprised if someone like, I don't know, who the this the center they got in the 7th round, like, I don't expect him to make the team anyways because he was like he wasn't even like what, like in the top 600 like big board that everyone had. People didn't even know who he was because he wasn't even on any big board.
Gavin Gerhardt is who you're
Yeah,
thinking of. Yes.
sorry to him for just bashing him, but his chances of making the team are pretty slim. But that being said, I'm still excited about Golday. I'm excited to see what Dominique Orange can do in camp. Big Citrus. I'm curious about all the rookies. It's been a while since the Vikings have had a good rookie class. So, if it's not this year, then hopefully it'll be next year because they got some people who seem like they have a little bit better idea how to find talent and at least talent that works with the team that they have. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all meshes together.
And you can follow all of it at thevikingage.com. Adam, tell them what we got going on at the Viking Age right now.
Oh, so much stuff. It's actually, let's see, it's the middle of June, so we are pretty much entering like the slowest part of the NFL calendar. So there's probably going to be a little bit more looking back historical stuff. I know we're going to be updating some all-time lists, so keep an eye out for those. But also just like watch the podcast, subscribe to the channel, listen to the podcast, like share our stuff with everybody else. Yeah, I think we enjoy doing this, so we want to make sure that other people get to interact with us and have fun too. So not only check out the vikingage.com, but subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already.
Yeah, and of course, I am writing at the Viking Age again,
Yeah.
so my stuff is there. It's also at zonecoverage.com with Vikings and Twins stuff. We got wild coverage at Hockey Wilderness as well, so I am everywhere. I'm usually writing
You're Mr.
about
Minnesota.
something. I am, as our friend Josh Hill has put it, king of Minnesota sports,
Yeah.
which, I don't know, I think of the Macho King.
I mean,
But
when
I
you were a
can't grow
kid,
beard.
getting paid to cover all Minnesota sports probably
Oh,
was like,
God, yeah. Like, that's when people are like, how's the new job going? I'm like, I get paid to write Minnesota sports all day.
I have to watch this game.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun. So there is that. So a lot of stuff going on my end. Of course, a lot of stuff at thevikingage.com because this is the Viking Age Podcast. It's the official podcast of thevikingage.com. We do this right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel, and we're in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. However you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We can spread the word to the masses. He is Adam Patrick at Adam Patrick NFL. I am Chris Schad at The Real Chris Schad. SKOL.